Well, last week, Hollywood released a trailer for a new movie showing a civil war coming to the United States, is on purpose, of course, predictive programming to get us ready for what's coming. We are witnessing an attack on the United States by the deep state, or the permanent government, if you will, and they're pulling out every last trick in the book to keep Donald Trump from winning and running in 2024. Last night, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump is unfit to be on the 2024 presidential ballot, of course, citing the 14th Amendment, that he engaged in insurrection to overthrow the government. And this is just the beginning, folks. Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy called this ruling illegal and pledged immediately to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot until Trump is also allowed to be on the ballot. Watch his announcement.
I'm making a pledge today that I will withdraw. I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot unless and until Trump's name is restored. And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley do the same thing, or else these Republicans are simply complicit in this unconstitutional attack on the way we conduct our constitutional republic.
Well, Vivek is perhaps the only candidate with balls standing on principle on this. And he joins us now. Vivek, nice to see you joining us from Iowa today. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be on. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. So why it seemed to me when this announcement broke yesterday, you were in between campaign stops there in Iowa, and you immediately released a video in between campaign stops and sent out that message that we just played here that you wanted to be removed from the ballot as well. And you called upon Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Ron DeSantis also to join you in that effort. Why did you do that? And why did you do it so quickly?
I just felt immediately like the thing to do. I mean, either you believe that this is an unconstitutional illegal maneuver or you don't. But if you do, and I think obviously it is, then there's one right answer. Effectively eliminate the Colorado has on primary, because that completely nullifies the move that they're trying to make. So if no Republican is running on that ballot, then their removal of Trump does not have the effect of election interference that they want it to have. And so for me, look, I can't wait for the other people to do the right thing. But to me, that's the way you have a problem that comes up. It's a threat. Take a legs out from under that threat, convincing the voters of this country, not by having the Democrat cabal in the back rooms of some sort of palace hall called a courtroom, decide the way we marry. And so for me, it seemed like the obvious thing to do. It's been interesting to hear the radio silence from the likes of Nikki Haley and DeSantis and Chris Christie since then. I think that reveals something deeper that is going on. Is this isn't really just a partisan assault. I would say a partisan consensus that's actually skeptical of our republic, that's skeptical of the people's ability to choose the leadership of a country. I think there are a lot of people in this country who now believe quietly, amongst Republicans and Democrats both, that the people can't be trusted to fight climate change, to address racial injustice, or in this case, to decide who the Republican nominees should be, that it's their job as the super PAC puppet masters or the people who are more enlightened to make that choice. And that's not just a Democrat issue. That exists solidly within the Republican Party as well. And I think that's a big part of the mentality that I'm fighting against in this country, to revive the basic idea that we, the people, should select who leads this country, which I don't think should be that complicated.
You've been obviously campaigning nonstop, and you're talking to average Americans. I think we see it every night on our show. Our viewers do not believe their elected representatives represent them. And they certainly don't believe those elected representatives are actually running the country. There is a deep state. There is a permanent government in the United States that's running things. And one of my big criticisms of Trump was that when he got in there to drain the swamp initially, that didn't happen. It actually got worse. We're led to believe that this time, I guess it will happen. That's something you actively want to do, to get rid of the corruption in Washington, D.C. You're up against a behemoth. I mean, have they come after you in a way to really prevent you from doing this? And when you get there, what would be different from Trump, you in Washington being able to drain the swamp, to get rid of all of that corruption, close down these departments that are permanently running the show?
Yeah, so look, I think that there's been a nonprofit report that came out a couple weeks ago that said I've been the most censored and shadow banned candidate in this race. I think it's not by accident. It's not because the things I'm saying are false. It's because they're true. So my worldview is simple for this country. two bedrock principles, right? We talk about the America First movement. What does that actually mean? It comes down to two things. The people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government. That isn't the case today. And number two is those elected officials owe a sole duty to the citizens of this country, not any other one. That guides my perspective. And I think that part of what I'm aiming to do here is to take our America First movement to the next level. We need to say what we actually stand for. I think those are two North Star principles that we can use. How am I going to be able to go further than Trump? I'll tell you. I give Trump a lot of credit for rolling over that log. We saw what crawled out. I'm bringing the pesticide. Okay, I'll tell you what that means. It takes somebody who's not just a businessman with sharp elbows coming from the outside. Trump brings that, I bring that. Okay, and you've seen me willing to break glass on the debate stage or elsewhere. That's what I'm going to do in Washington, D.C. But it also takes somebody who knows and understands the law and the Constitution in this country deeply, first personally, or else they're going to dupe you. Okay, they told Trump that, those civil service protections apply to those federal bureaucrats and you can't fire them. Not quite. Read the law. Those civil service protections only protect against individual employee firings. They do not apply to mass layoffs, and mass firings are absolutely what I am bringing to the DC bureaucracy. Okay, that's a big difference here. Individual firings, okay, you can't do that. You got to understand the law deeply. The Presidential Reorganization Act of 1977, it says under similar circumstances, the U.S. president can shut down agencies if those agencies are redundant, if doing so would promote the economy or efficiency of operations. That's what I'm going to use to shut down the Department of Education, to shut down and reorganize the FBI and the National Security State, to actually shut down the ATF, the CDC, number of other agencies that fit that description. And I would say those two qualities don't usually go together, right? You might have the nerdy academic law professor type over here, the business guy who can execute over here. That's part of what pulled me into this race, is I think that that's what this moment demands. I think those qualities don't usually go together. And yes, I'm confident I'm going to be able to do that, to take the America First agenda, to take the anti-bureaucratic agenda, the deep state, the anti-deep state agenda to the next level in this country. And so I'll give Trump the credit for exposing a lot of that problem. Now we got to go to the next level and actually shut it down.
Do you believe, as some have suggested, that we are seeing the first warning signs of a civil war in the United States?
So I don't use that word lightly, and I worry about speaking about civil war. It's one of these things that speaks itself into existence. So I'm very careful when talking about this. But I do believe we're in the middle of a kind of ideological, cold cultural civil war in this country. It's between those of us who love the United States of America and those who, frankly, hate this country and wish to see our ideals cease. Every politician dances to the tune of their biggest donor. And in my case, that biggest donor is me. And so when people have a choice to make, I give you one rule of thumb. If you want somebody who's going to get in there and actually speak truth to power, actually shut down the deep state, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. And there's a reason why I'm the only candidate in this race who's able to speak the truth about what really happened on January 6th, looking increasingly like it was the product of entrapment, an inside job, about Ronna McDaniel needing to be fired as the chairwoman of the RNC, the climate change agenda that's being used as effectively an infringement on our sovereignty that's a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. There's a reason I've said I'd pardon peaceful J6 protesters on day one who have been wrongfully charged or imprisoned despite being the product of entrapment or having their constitutional rights denied, or those who were merely peaceful that day. There's a reason I'm the only candidate who's in this race who's able to say these things. And as I said, your best chance of somebody who's actually going to get this done and speak truth to power, start with somebody who's speaking the truth to you. And that's what I'm doing in this race. And I think it's going to take somebody who's unafraid of the consequences of that to actually have a chance of getting this job done.
I'll get you out of here on this, Vivek. Another thing that a lot of people love to dance around is Israel. They love to dance around the military-industrial complex, and they love to dance around the money that we send to Ukraine. Where do you come down on Israel? Do you think the United States is controlled by the Israeli lobby, those members of Congress, the United States government? Do you think the United States is funneling too much money? And do you think that Israel is carrying out a genocide? Where do you come down on this? Do you think that Israel is carrying out a genocide?
I'll tell you where I come down. So I don't think that the use of the word genocide is appropriate there, because 20% of the Palestinian, 20% of Israel's population is Palestinian. and the place on earth where Palestinians live the best life is in Israel. But I'll tell you, I'm not running to be president of Israel, and I'm not running to be president of any other country. I'm running to be president of the United States of America. So as it relates to Ukraine, I'd end that war, and I've talked about that extensively. You asked about Israel. Here's my view. We shouldn't be intervening in that war. My message to Israel is Israel absolutely has the absolute right to defend itself, and I'll diplomatically stand for Israel's right to do so. But I'm against the $16 billion or $14 billion or whatever it is aid package. I don't think that's good for Israel, and I don't think it's good for the United States when we muddy the waters. And so it's not our job to be the global policeman, and I take issue with those Biden or others that are now going in the direction of calling what Israel's response is a genocide or whatever. I think that's inappropriate. It's off the mark. But I also don't want to intervene half in, half out in these conflicts in the Middle East that haven't advanced our interests. Frankly, the Taliban's still in charge in Afghanistan 20 years later. Iraq is still a broken country after our failed occupation and invasion on false pretenses of another nation. So I won't make those same mistakes on my watch. And in the same way as the father of two sons, my moral duty is to my family. As your president, my sole moral duty is to the citizens of this nation, the United States of America, not any other one. And so for me, that's moral clarity. That's how I'm going to lead this country. Frankly, I think that's better for Israel, but I think more importantly for me as the next president of the United States, that's better for the United States. That's where I land. And, as you can see, I don't, a lot of candidates are very coached on how they talk about these issues. I'm going to share with you my candid convictions. I think we deserve a president who tells the truth to the people again in this country. That's what I'm doing. And I think I'm our best chance to revive what this country was founded on, stand for actual America First principles. America First doesn't come with an asterisk for me. It comes with actual commitment to what we stand for. The people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government. And the sole moral duty they have is to the citizens of this nation, not any other one. That's how I'll lead this country. And if that's what the people of this country want, then I'm in it for 8 years to revive who we are.
Last night, your name came up. Our friend Tucker Carlson was asked, who do they like as a potential VP for Trump? And I know you're running for president. You want to be president of the United States. If that doesn't happen, and if President Trump calls you and says, Vivek, I'd like you to be my vice presidential nominee, what would you say to him?
I mean, look, it's funny. A lot of people in Iowa at these events, I'm about to walk into one now, they come in. Several people have told me this. I came in asking you to be Trump's VP. I left thinking that Trump should be your VP, right? I think Tucker would make a pretty interesting VP too. I mean, if you want kind of a sharp advisor, and that's what you want in the role of a VP, I think Tucker could be a great choice for myself. And if Trump's the nominee, I think Tucker could be great for him. I'm not a plan B guy, or have been. I didn't get to where I am tearing down bureaucracy, achieving success by being a plan B person. I'm not going to start now. But you know what? If I'm the nominee, I will believe that Donald Trump could be an excellent person who could advise me through that.
I love it. Well, it's what we tell our kids.
So I got to roll, man.
No plan Bs in our family. No plan Bs. Vivek, great to see you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good luck at the event.
Thanks, man. Talk to you. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live.